Hi guys, yesterday I made this delicious Korean Bibimbap, which literally means mixed rice and is basically a deconstructed stir fry where you serve rice and a load of different veg that have all been cooked and flavoured differently. Top it with a raw egg yolk or a fried egg sunny side up and some gochujang or Korean chili paste, and let everyone mix it up themselves at the table. There is a bit of work involved for this dish, but trust me, it's totally worth it. The flavours are so intense and delicious. But it's best to get most of the work done ahead of time if you can, so you won't be too stressed out if you're feeding a crowd. I started off a few hours in advance by taking 2 carrots, peeling them and slicing them into julienne strips or matchsticks. Then I put them in a bowl and added about half a teaspoon of salt and tried to toss them up to coat them in the salt, but the bowl was too small, so in a larger bowl, toss them up to coat them in salt. This will flavour them, but it'll also leach out some of their moisture. Then just set them aside and let them rest for at least an hour. Now take the very most of an English cucumber, halve it lengthways, then slice it into half moons. Now just like the carrots, add them to a large bowl, add about a half a teaspoon of salt and toss them all up, then set them aside for at least an hour so that all their moisture will seep out. Now take a courgette or zucchini, depending on where you're from, and slice it into discs. Then fan out the discs so you can easily slice them julienne. Then just like before, add them to a large bowl, add half a teaspoon of salt, toss them up, then set them aside so that they'll drain out all of the excess water. Now to give the dish some red, take 2 red peppers and just slice them up into thin strips as well. Bibimbap is known to be a visually stunning dish, so you do need a variety of colours as well as flavours and textures to go on top of the rice. Just don't salt the peppers here because otherwise they'll go too soft. Another thing you should do ahead of time is toast up a load of sesame seeds in a dry pan, and you will need a lot of them. As well as piles of garlic. I've got about 2 bulbs here that I've peeled, and I've got a good garlic crusher, so I'm just going to crush them into the veg as and when I need to. But if you don't have one, you'll have to mince it with a knife or grate it with a microplane, and if I was doing it either of those ways, I do it now ahead of time too. Beef is commonly used in bibimbap too. I just have 2 small fillet steaks here, and that was more than enough for 3 of us. Just thinly slice it before you marinate it. You could use sirloin instead if you prefer, just remember to remove the fat. Now add the beef to a large bowl along with 2 cloves of garlic crushed. Next take 2 spring onions and chop them up before you add them to the beef as well. Add about a tablespoon of toasted sesame seeds, a tablespoon of soy sauce, 2 teaspoons of sesame seed oil, a teaspoon of sugar, and 2 teaspoons of rice wine. Then mix it up really well and let it marinate for at least 20 minutes or a few hours. Now rinse about 400 grams of raw bean sprouts really well in cold water. If you're using tinned, you can just drain them here, you don't need to cook them at all. If you are cooking though, bring a large pot of water to the boil, then add a tablespoon of salt, then pile in the bean sprouts, clamp the lid on and allow it to cook for 3 to 4 minutes. Then go ahead and remove them from the pot with a slotted spoon, transfer them to a bowl and rinse them really well in cold water to instantly stop the cooking. Then add them to a bowl. Add half a teaspoon of salt, add 2 cloves of garlic crushed, a teaspoon of sesame seed oil, and mix them all together really well before setting them aside until later. Now bring the water you cooked your bean sprouts in back to the boil and add about 500 grams of spinach. Stir for 30 seconds before you remove it with a slotted spoon and rinse it in cold water to stop the cooking process, just like before. Now drain it and squeeze it gently just to wring out any excess water. Now turn it out on your chopping board and give it a quick chop. Then return it to the bowl. Add half a teaspoon of salt, a tablespoon of toasted sesame seeds, another 2 cloves of crushed garlic, and a teaspoon of sesame seed oil before you mix it all up and then set it aside until later. Now take an aubergine or an eggplant, remove the stem and then cut it into chunky kind of wedges. Put them into a steamer and set the steamer over your pot of boiling water and clamp the lid on and allow them to steam for 10 minutes. 10 minutes later, remove the steamer, take out the aubergine and let them strain as they cool so that all the excess liquid runs out of them. Now to make a sauce for the aubergine, go ahead and crush loads of garlic. I'm crushing 6 cloves here. Then place a frying pan over a really high heat, and once it's very hot, add a tablespoon of vegetable oil. Add in your piles of garlic and stir fry for just about 30 seconds before you add a good heaping mound of doenjang. This is the Korean equivalent to Japanese miso paste. So it's fermented soybean paste and it's really salty and full of umami flavour. Here I added 200 millilitres of chicken stock just because I had excess stock for another recipe, but feel free to use water if you prefer to keep it vegan. Just stir to dissolve the doenjang and bring it to the boil. Remember, you can make this ahead of time as well. Just heat it up last minute to toss the cooled aubergine in it. Now, I'm also serving some homemade kimchi as an optional extra for whoever's brave enough to try it. You can buy it if you like, or if you want to make it, you can check out the recipe in the description below to see how I made this. Just put it into a bowl and snip it up with the scissors. It's also probably a good idea to take another small bowl and snip a good few spring onions into it, just to have it handy because Koreans love their spring onions and they garnish everything with them. About an hour before serving, start on your rice. I have 500 grams of short grain sushi rice here, but you really should work in volumes. That's 600 millilitres and I'll need another 600 millilitres of water to cook it. First though, I'm going to wash it for a few minutes under the cold tap to get out all the excess starch. You'll know you've got it all out when the water running out of the sieve is no longer cloudy but clear. Now add it to a large saucepan, plus the 600 millilitres of cold water. Give it a gentle stir, then clamp the lid on and let it rest there at room temperature for about 30 minutes. As that's soaking, I bring back the doenjang sauce to heat up for the aubergine and grab a stack of small serving bowls for each of the veg as you cook them. Stir the sauce as it comes up to the boil, then add the aubergine and toss to coat and heat through. Once it's piping hot, transfer it to a serving bowl and keep it someplace warm until serving. I stuck it in a really low heated oven at 80 degrees Celsius. Once the rice has been soaking for 30 minutes, go ahead and turn the heat up to medium-high and allow it to cook for 10 minutes covered. Now place a large frying pan over a high heat and add a tablespoon of vegetable oil. Once it's hot, take your carrots and drain the excess water at the bottom of the bowl before you add them to the pan. Stir fry them over a high heat for just about a minute before you transfer them to one of the serving bowls and stick it in the cool oven while you get on with the rest of the ingredients. Add another drop of oil if you need to before you add the red peppers and a little pinch of salt and stir fry for just another minute before you transfer to another serving bowl. Top up with some more oil if needs be before you add the drained cucumber. Crush in another clove of garlic and add a small drop of sesame seed oil before you stir fry for just 30 seconds and transfer them to another serving bowl. Add another drop of oil if you need to before you add the drained courgette. Crush in another clove of garlic, add a drop of sesame seed oil and scatter over some spring onions before you stir fry it for another 30 seconds to a minute. Then transfer it to a serving bowl and stick it in the oven with all the rest of them to keep them warm. Add another drop of oil before you pile in the beef and the marinade and stir fry for a few minutes just until it's fully cooked. Then transfer it to another serving bowl. By now the rice should be almost cooked, so just go ahead and fluff it up with a fork before you clamp the lid on again and return it to a really low heat to cook for just another 10 minutes. Which should give you plenty of time to fry up some eggs. I cracked them into ramekins first so I could carefully add them to the pan without breaking the yolks. The yolks need to be intact and still runny to act as another sauce for the rice, so just fry until the whites are no longer runny, then serve. First add the rice to a big serving bowl, then I added some bean sprouts, the spinach, the aubergine, carrots, cucumber, beef, courgette, the red pepper, then I topped it with the fried egg, added just about a teaspoon of gochujang and sprinkled over some toasted sesame seeds and spring onions. Then take a pair of chopsticks or a knife and fork if you prefer and just mix everything up until it's all nice and incorporated and just dig in. This really is so nice and delicious and really healthy. It's a lot of work, but I think everyone should give it a go, especially for special occasions. People will be so impressed. Thanks a million for watching, guys. I really hope you liked this video and will give Bibimbap a go yourselves at home. It really is so nice, I can't recommend it enough. If you did like the video, be sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons below. You can check me out on social media if you like. All the links to my accounts are in the description, as well as the link to my blog where you'll find this full recipe at www.rookiecook.org.